Is May 1st, the rent will be due again, and a lot of people just don't have the money to pay the rent. State Senator Mike Gianaris is with me now, who has been calling for some sort of rent relief. Senator Gianaris, Albany is not in session right now. What can be done, what will be done for renters as the next month comes due?
Well, what can be done is the governor has the power to issue directives by executive order during this emergency. So I've asked him, in the absence of legislative action, to please step in and provide some help for the renters who are now going to be entering their second month of having these rent obligations without having income for the most part. I mean, there is some federal stimulus money, there's some unemployment money. It's all been too slow to arrive. The Department of Labor's troubles processing the claims are well documented at this point. In the meantime, renters are continuing to get pressured to pay rent with money that they just don't have.
We really, through much of March and a lot of April, were focused on a healthcare battle, making sure the hospitals had what they needed. As we look toward the month of May, there is so much that we have to deal with in terms of economy and employment and food and rent, all of the economic aspects of this story.
You're absolutely right. We've probably been focused on the health consequences. We've been taking steps that we need to take to protect people's lives first and foremost. But right behind that is the economic catastrophe that's falling down. We've essentially told millions of people that the jobs that they relied on to pay their expenses are now gone. Over 1/3 of people in the entire country didn't pay their April rent on time. That number must be exponentially higher in New York, which is the center of this problem. And now we're entering May, and we still have not adequately provided relief for people or security for people to maintain their homes at a time when we're telling everyone to stay at home. We're not making sure that they have a home to stay in. In fact, we're telling them, even those who live paycheck to paycheck, you don't have a paycheck anymore, but you're still expected to pay your rent. And it's just not a wise way of thinking, not just for them, but if we want to get our communities and our city back on its feet in as smooth a way as possible once this is over, we cannot set the stage for a massive housing crisis where you're going to have thousands of eviction proceedings all at once in the summer or fall, and foreclosures that follow from that. We have to set the ground rules so that people know what their obligations are and are positioned to get back to work as quickly as possible in a way that maintains their home living situation.
Yeah, it's almost like we need a two-pronged approach because number one, you got to make sure that somebody has food for tomorrow, and then secondly, you got to make sure that they're set up in a way that they will find another job, that they will be in a stable housing situation in a month or 3 months from now.
Yeah, and look, what I'd like to say is let's start this process at the bottom rungs of the economic ladder, the working people that absolutely are struggling to survive and need the help the most. Let's help the renters who rent is their biggest expense. They have taken a huge hit in terms of their income stream. They're not able to pay. Let's help them first. Then let's move up the economic ladder a little bit. And small homeowners who need that rent to survive, let's give them some assistance too. There is going to be pain here, and we need to share the sacrifice. We need to push that burden as far up the economic ladder as we can to the entities that are most likely to benefit, whether by manipulation or just by dumb policy at the federal level. It tends to be the big industries that get bailed out and that survive these things better than anybody else. So if it's the banks and the insurance companies that end up getting bailed out, let us here in New York make sure we protect the working people, the small homeowners, people that need the help. Because all too often, just like we saw in the banking crisis a decade ago, the banks did just fine and the everyday people got screwed. And we're trying to avoid that here in New York.
State Senator Gianaris, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Pat. Let me take a second to congratulate you on your Emmy. I saw a bit of good news in all this crisis.
Yeah, it was a nice night on Saturday. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You bet.